Ladies and gentlemen, we are excited to be back this week, and you're in for a special treat. You know, we've tended to focus this show about real estate, but today we're going to do something a little different, but it's going to be just as valuable. You're going to learn about overcoming adversity, persistence, stepping out of the boat, and having faith, and you're going to see it live in a young man who's joining us today named Trent Bonds, and he's coming up next right here on Cliff's Notes. Real estate agents, are you struggling with the day-to-day grind, dialing for dollars, putting in hours of floor time with little to show for it? Are you looking for tips, tricks, and tactics to accelerate your career as an agent that will have you closing more homes, working with more clients, and earning more money than ever before? Hi, my name's Cliff Freeman, and I've spent the past 2 decades of my real estate career running one of the top brokerages in DFW and personally coaching over 1,000 high-performing real estate professionals across North America. I created this podcast to share the strategies and tactics you need to explode your real estate business. I guarantee it. We're doubling down. Poor Mattress Mac may have that $7 million. It just depends on what happens. I guess tonight's pivotal, right? Trelvis, where's our money tonight? Are we on the Rangers or the Astros?
You know what? I'm definitely putting it on the Rangers.
Okay. Well, I'm with you. I'm gonna throw good money after good money. Is what I'm doing for sure.
It's gonna be a party of ours
It is for real. Yes. And C3, I'm telling you, I am super excited to have Trent Bonds on the show today with us.
Yes, sir.
You know, we met this gentleman, actually I did just by chance. I sat next to him in one of our local Mexican food establishments up in Prosper, and we started talking, and I was just blown away by what this young man has overcome and the success that he's reached, both as a father, a husband, a business person, retired. You're going to learn all about him. And in fact, Travis, if we could, let's go ahead and bring Trent on the show here with us. And Trent, welcome to Cliff's Notes. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Well, as I was saying earlier, you know, when you and I first met, there was something about you. You were kind of that quiet, reserved guy, but you know, it's they say it's the quiet ones you got to worry about, something like that.
Yeah.
But when you started to you and I started to talk, and you opened up a little bit, I was just taken aback. And there's a little sort of backstory here. When I was in college at Rice, my roommate was from Chicago, and he used to tell me stories about growing up in Chicago and what a different world it was than Houston, especially the South Side. And in fact, he mentioned a couple of places. One was the Robert Taylor homes. And then he told me about Cabrini Greens, which you are very familiar with because that's where you grew up. Now, for those folks in our audience who have maybe never knew about Cabrini Greens in Chicago, what kind of place was that? It was public housing, right,
Yes.
Trent?
Yes, it was public housing. This was home. It was a home for me. I could never imagine being outside of where I grew up. I just, didn't think there was another world. Mm-hmm. It was an entire world for me just growing up in Cabrini.
Well, what was it like? Tell me, I mean, these are big high rises, and you were a young child there. How many children in the family were you? What was your family? What was the structure like in your family?
When I lived there, I think it was 3 bedrooms, and there was probably 6 or 7 adults. I don't remember how many cousins I had living with us at the time, but it was at least 6.
Okay.
All in one little apartment.
Okay. So as a young boy there, how accessible was the playground? Where were your friends? How did you guys entertain yourselves? What was the day like when you were growing up?
We played on the elevators. We played in the hallways. There was a playground right outside, like if you go downstairs. I think we were on like the 15th floor. So we'd go down. Most of the playing was in the building, though. abandoned, apartments or whatever. We played there. But if you go down in the open field right outside the back of the building, there was a playground, slides and swings and whatnot.
Yeah. Now, to say that that was a tough neighborhood is probably an understatement, right?
Definitely.
Why is that?
I think everybody was fighting for something. Everybody was trying to get something, and it caused a hostile environment. So fights would break out, shootings would break out. I was right in the middle of most of the things that happened, and it was so common that you might run, you might not run, you might hide from it or maybe not, but there's just too many people packed in one place that was trying to get out or fight for resources, whatever they were.
Right. So tell us a little bit about your parents.
So my mom did not stay in a relationship with my father, but she did marry a guy I call my dad. And he was from Cabrini, from the high rise. And he was a street guy. They both were street guys. So this was kind of my upbringing, just seeing how he was well respected in our neighborhood. So that kept me, from a lot of trouble. But everything around us was, was tough. It was rough. It was violence everywhere.
Okay. So how old were you when you saw your first corpse, your first dead body in Cabrini Greens?
Maybe I was about 7.
About 7.
Yeah, about 7 years old.
How many do you think you remember seeing while you were there?
Well, so I've seen people got shot. I wasn't sure if they did die. And I think I found 2 people, one in an elevator and one in a stairwell. So it was about 2 people that was dead on my way to school that I saw them.
On your way to school?
Yeah.
See, we worry about dogs biting our legs and ankles, and he's tripping over stuff like that. That's unbelievable at that age. So, who was it that really was your parent at that time? You said your mom was sort of working 2 jobs, if I recall.
Yeah, my mom was always working. She's a nurse, and she was always working, so she was out of the home a lot. So I would be between her mother, which is my grandmother, and with my other uncles and aunts, we were like the same age. So she would send me to her, and she was the disciplinarian for the most part because my mom worked so much.
Who was your hero back then?
I'd have to say she was my hero. She was my hero. We were, even though I missed a lot of like the loving side, because she was all business.
Mm-hmm.
She was all business. We were taken care of. We were going to eat. We were going to have a place to sleep, and we were going to have clothes. But there wasn't a lot of embracing and a lot of that type of thing. So yeah, but she still, I could guarantee that I would have that when I was with her.
Okay. And so you at a young age, you started having to be pretty dadgum resourceful.
Yeah.
In terms of learning how to make money.
Yeah.
Tell us about some of the early entrepreneurial activities that you got involved in.
So at an early age, I would go to the downtown area. I would get newspapers, when you stick the quarter in, you get the newspapers out. I would take the whole stack and take a cart and, walk down the street and sell them. I would do that. I would go to the grocery store and find receipts. People would throw their receipts down, and I would follow the receipt and bag all of these things that was on the grocery list. Either I would keep it or resell it. I would go to the wishing wells, pick the coins out of the wishing wells. I would do that type of thing. So collect cans. I collect a lot of cans and turn them in. So I found a lot of ways to do things before I finally actually had a job that somebody, paid me to do work.
Yeah. So you didn't have to decide between an iPhone and an Android. Your decisions were all based on survival.
Yes, sir. All survival. Everything I did was about making it to the next day.
And this is at a pretty darn young age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was very young, and most of my family, and they remind me of stories too. When I was young, they would say they saw me somewhere and nobody was with me, But I knew my way around the city. I knew how to catch the train. I knew how to catch the bus. And if you're that small and you just get on the bus, usually nobody would say anything to you. You just go,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. What were your hopes and dreams at that age?
So at that age, I hoped to. So I looked at whether it was on television or other people that I knew that had parents or a place that they can sleep comfortable at night. Those were the things I looked forward to growing up, like just having a place that I could be comfortable, and rest without gunfire or violence or, having to leave in the middle of the night or something like that.
Okay. So as you continued, you stayed in school, right? You graduated. How were those years, the high school years for you?
So it's kind of hard. So my life is kind of up, down, up, down. It doesn't all piece together where it makes sense because I don't think I spent a full year anywhere. Everything was broken down, months here, months there, and so forth. When I got to high school age, I spent a portion of my high school with my mom's mother, and then I spent a portion of high school with my father's mother. And the last portion was with my father's mother. That's where I had a more safe environment. She was more loving, but I was more free because she wasn't, as strict as my mom's mom. But, I that was some of the hardest times because I had to really figure out how to be my own man because she had an income that was fixed income and she was trying to take care of herself as well. So I looked forward early to have my own life. I got an apartment before I even graduated high school, had 2 cars, and this is kind of how I started working little jobs and stuff like that.
Okay. And then it wasn't long after that you made a decision, a career decision. Tell us about that decision and why you chose to go the route that you did.
So I had kids early, and this was actually the change of my life when I started to realize I'm responsible for somebody else. This changed my life. At that point, I wanted to make sure or attempt to do everything for someone that wasn't done for me. Make a secure living environment, provide, food, clothes, the basic things, and that they could look up to me, as if you need something, you would be safe to know that I can provide it for you and find out how to get it. So at some point, I was working, I was holding down jobs, 2, 3 jobs at a time. And that was very hard because it kept me away from home. Like my mom was away from home, constantly working. So I made a decision to join the military.
Okay.
At that point.
I think, Travis, do we have a picture of Tread back in the day? Is that about the time you joined, or was that after you'd been in for a while?
Yeah, I had been in a little while. That's my old drill sergeant days. I was a trainer then.
Okay. Wow. And where were you stationed?
At that time, I was stationed in Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Hot summers, huh?
Yeah, hot summers.
Yeah. Tornadoes and all kinds of stuff.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Exactly. Well, that was a change from Cabrini Green.
It was a huge change. And actually, it was the first time I ever flew that I remember flying somewhere and being out of Illinois, that I can really remember.
Yeah. That's incredible. A lot of kids that grew up in Cabrini Green that experienced what you experienced never made it out.
That's true.
Why do you think you did?
That's a great question. Because I think there were a lot of great talent where I was from, a lot of smart people there. I think connecting with my grandmother on my father's side, she was a woman of faith. That rubbed off on me, I believed for a lot of things. And I think I wanted the best for someone else, which was my kids at this point. And I know it had a lot to do with what God did for me because I felt like for me, the change was going to be in them to change generations after. So I think just my faith and trusting God to, do something with my life and do something with their lives is what it was.
So was that the rock at your bottom when you hit rock bottom?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. All right. So let's go a little bit further here. So you were in the military for how long?
Total now, I retired at 21 years.
21 years, but you also took a little bit of a break
I took a
to
break.
go into another level of civil service,
Right.
in which you did what?
So I joined the police department. So these are things coming from where I'm from that people spoke against. Like growing up, people said the military was no place for, a black man. Or growing up, I was taught that police were bad. These are things that I grew up. But when I had the opportunity, I wanted to know and see if I can make a difference for the outlook of those things myself. I had to know for myself, and I had to write my own story. So midway through my military career, I decided to get out and take a shot at joining the police department.
Okay. I don't know, Travis, do we have oh, look there. Okay.
Sharp.
What year was this?
This was 2000.
2000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And what year did you start to look like Emmett Smith's little brother? That was.
I get that sometimes. I get that sometimes. Somebody asked me for my autograph. And I'm like, I don't know who you think I am. And I had no clue what they were thinking. But I was over at the Star having lunch. And he was like, I just want your autograph. And I was like, I'll give it to you, but, I don't know.
So
who
did you
think I
sign
am.
it Emmett or did you sign it?
No,
Trent?
so after we had the conversation, they was like, Emmett? And I'm like, Tread? They was like, nah, we don't want Tread. So
Oh,
I
my
didn't
gosh.
sign it. So
I love that. I love it. I love it. And so you were a police officer. Now, that wasn't always a smooth ride either. I mean, just on the way into the studio today, you were telling us about, obviously you're a black man. Okay.
obviously,
And I remarked on your truck, you have a blue stripe on your front where the license plate goes, and you have a thin blue stripe on the back. And then
you've marked me now.
Uh-oh, did I let the cat out of the bag? Okay, it's a Chevy. It's a Chevy truck, right? But
it's purple.
You were explaining, and it's purple, yeah. You were explaining the reason why, Tread, you did that. What's the reason behind that?
So I had some run-ins. So before I've had so many things happen in my life. Before I became a police officer, 3 of my cousins were driving down the street and got pulled over by the cops in Chicago. They pulled us out the car and beat us up, and then let us go on our merry way. Of course, they said some stuff to us that I can't repeat here, but I remember those days. Then after becoming a police officer, I've been stopped many times as a police officer. I got stopped while I was in plain clothes, taken out the car, roughed up, kind of the same way. And that police officer digs in my pocket, which he wasn't supposed to do, pulled out my wallet and saw my badge in there. And he goes, well, how come you didn't tell me you were a police officer? And I'm thinking that has nothing to do with the job description that you have of how you treat people. So that thinking about stuff like that, and after the shooting and all that happened in Dallas, and I get stopped every now and again for whatever reason, I know that when a police officer approaches my car and they see the thin blue line, it would cause them to think of questions relating to what's that about. Instead of being nervous and have their hand on their, instead of being defensive, it usually they'll ask me right away, what's that about, or, what's the badge or whatever. So that makes it nice, and we, both of us are nice and comfortable and probably go home safe.
That's just horrible to think about.
Yeah.
It really is. Well, hopefully that disease will get cured someday. So you, then 911 happened, right? I remember as you and I were talking.
Yeah.
And then what happened with 911?
So I was a police officer actively in Oklahoma City. 9/11 happened. I got activated to come back into the military, and I was a military police for the military. So when that happened, I realized I had a lot of active duty time already. So after I got deactivated, I started to consider the plan of retiring, because I was kind of close. They would retire me and relocate me and give me a bonus and stuff like that. So I looked at that as an option.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so did that mean that you had to, you were always like on alert if there was a war? Like right now, could you be called up if something happened, or?
I don't think so. I'm retired now, and this beard wouldn't look good in the uniform. I got a bad knee. I
Okay.
really doubt if they're going to call me
Pickleball,
right
you've been
now.
playing pickleball, huh? Yeah, I got you. Okay, all right. But again, the reason why I asked earlier about, because at a very young age, you started doing very entrepreneurial things.
Yeah.
You know, the difference between entrepreneurs and those people who aren't is entrepreneurs can start with no resources and be resourceful and make money. Somebody who doesn't have resources that's not an entrepreneur will just be broke, right? They won't be resourceful to go work their way out of the situation. You met a young lady, and I guess we'll leave out some of the middle part of it, but you guys now are happily married. And in fact, at lunch, he showed C3 and I his phone where he's traveled and he's been all over the world, right, with this young lady. And between the two of you now, you've got three sets of kids. You've got your early set, you've got the later set, and then she had a child as well.
Yeah.
And when you guys blended, then now does that mean that like at Thanksgiving it's a big
Everybody.
table,
Yeah.
right?
At some point, you can expect everybody to be there,
Right.
or together somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
But you made a point to tell us that it's not just you and your wife doing the traveling and stuff all the time. You make sure the kids are involved in that now as well.
Yeah, even my older kids, I try to make plans where we all travel together.
Sure. Now, your kids turned out to be pretty darn good, didn't they?
I would say,
Why do you think they did?
because I love them.
Okay.
I think not just that we're blessed so much. I put a lot of thought into what I was going to do as far as being a parent. I knew that everything that didn't happen for me, I wanted to happen for them. Even though I had no clue on how to be a parent, I did not have a good example of a man ahead of me, not even an older, uncle, or I didn't have a good example. But I really did. I read stuff. I watched the movies, and looked for good examples of how to be something that I wasn't. And I think, and I'm hoping that rubbed off, and started them off much better than I started off.
I bet you're your kid's hero.
I would hope to say that.
Yeah.
That's nice to say, though.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it sure is, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what advice do you have? We live in a world now, to grow up in Cabrini Green, Trent, is something that nobody watching this show more than likely has ever had to experience. Do you regret that experience?
Well, I think in my situation, if I didn't grow up there, I wouldn't be who I am, because I don't know anything different. But I regret. I'm like, wow, if I could have been born to a nice family somewhere, that would have been great. Growing up all my life, I always looked at somebody else who had some securities, and I looked at them like, wow, that they didn't appreciate it. Like, I would love to be you. But so I look at my upbringing, but I think about now, the results of it is this. I'm okay now, and my kids are okay, and I'm proud of them. But if I could have the same results and not have what I went through, of course, I would not want to have gone through,
Do you think, is it possible to have the same results without experiencing what you went through?
Yeah, I think it's possible
Okay.
for somebody. I don't know about me, though, but it is possible for somebody.
Okay.
See it everywhere.
Yeah.
I see a lot of successful people, and I see a lot of people who are unsuccessful, both with totally separate backgrounds.
Yeah.
I see people grow up very, very nice and comfortable in their, in a terrible place in life, and then just the opposite.
Yeah.
I grew up side by side with a cousin of mine, and he ended up getting caught up in the system, and we lost contact over many years, 20 some odd years, and I didn't know where he was back in Chicago, and we were growing up together. I had no idea where he was. And the funny thing is, how we were talking about a small world, just recently, it's been almost 30 years, I think. Just recently, he found me on Facebook, and I had to ask him, where were you? And he said, I was locked up. That's not my story. And he tells me, he said, I knew that you would get out. That's what he said to me. He said, I knew you were different than the rest of us and you would get out. And it blows me away.
So how much of a part of that did your faith play in your getting out and your staying in your lane and not doing things to screw your life up?
My faith was everything. It was everything. I think even where I was, my heart wasn't where I was. I learned a lot of bad things being from my neighborhood. My heart wasn't there, though. I knew what was right and what was wrong. It wasn't until I was able to get away from there and spend time with my grandmother, who was full of faith, that part of me could actually blossom, you know? So it wouldn't have been no other way, because even now, with our marriage and the way things are, we are fully functional at our church. We are volunteering. We are in the prayer ministry. We're in the marriage ministry. We're in the premaritals. We're doing all this stuff, giving back, and it's all about our faith. And I want to continue. I want to be blessed. I don't want to feel like I'm doing it for the result of that, but I know, and I feel better as a person to trust God and put my faith in, and I'd rather do that and see what happens.
You know, kids these days, I don't know for sure. I know church attendance is down 40%. People are running away from organized religion. How do you think that's going to impact the next generation?
Oh, this next generation, man, I'm worried. My older kids didn't have the media, internet, and all that stuff. They didn't have it like they got it now. I'm having a tough job as a parent. Now, this is the influence of everything, you know, the media, and I know they're gonna have it hard because they look at things and they already think I can be whatever that is because somebody's making it look glamorous.
Yeah.
Anything you make look glamorous, young people gravitate toward it.
Yeah, that's true. You know, we've got the young kid from Cabrini Green here who has done some amazing things, and I believe Trelvis, if I'm not mistaken, I think we've got maybe a clip or two. I know you've done some acting work, Tred, and you've done voiceover work. You've gotten into a lot of things that it's like, how did you go from Cabrini Green, military, police? Now you've done voiceovers. You and your wife own a couple of very successful beauty supply houses and things like that. Do we have a little clip, Trelvis, possibly that might show a little bit of Tred's acting talents? Something. There we go. Look at that. The demo reel. Perfect.
The baby fell out of the driver's seat and rolled under the wheel, and you accidentally ran over her. Is this correct? It's a miracle she survived. You're here to take a test. The rules are simple. You will have 60 minutes to answer one question. Talk to the guard, you die. Attempt any form of escape, you die. And of course, fail to answer the test question in time, you die. Very close. You only missed it very.
Holy cow. What in the world, Tread? That was a class A plus acting going on
real.
there, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
I wouldn't say that, but thank you.
Yeah, I mean that.
It's
What
nice
was
of
the
you guys.
opportunity there? And just briefly here, we're going to be running out of time. I hate to say that, but
Yeah.
how did you get involved in that?
So I don't remember. I don't think you remember, or do you remember? I told you I met a guy in Bosnia
Yes.
a long time ago.
Yes.
And then out of all places, I bumped into him in the DFW.
At church, right? Yeah.
Many years later, he has a nephew that does film. We link up. He heard I do some voiceover things, thanks to my cousin Rick Party, and he says, "Can you read a script for me?" And I go, "I don't do acting." He said, "I just want you to read the script," and then this is what we got.
Wow.
That's cool. That is cool. So this is a springboard maybe to some
Maybe
big times
I'm,
for you.
I'm
huh?
open.
Yeah.
I'm open.
Yeah.
You know.
And you and your wife, I don't know that we're going to have time for the video here, but tell us a little bit about this incredible, and what's there's a story behind the name as well.
Okay. So when my wife and I got married, we had to think of something that we can do together. Like, we have to do something together. And we're looking at all these ideas of business ventures and so forth. And we went like 3 years into our marriage, still trying to come up with something we need to do. But we were already set that whatever it is, it has to represent who we are. So the name, which is our last name, Bonds, we turned it in reverse and called it Snob. People had a hard time pronouncing it with the D in there, so we took the D off, and we are the Snobs. We're the Bondses. But a friend of ours went first into the business. We were already connected with that friend and thinking we could collaborate with them and do it, and it'll probably take off. Then we figured we can do it ourselves, and that's the short of it, and it's doing pretty good. We
Yeah,
have 2
but
stores.
as luck would have it, you signed your lease, and what happened the next
The
week?
pandemic hit, and
Oh
we
my
thought
God.
life was over.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to pay this rent, and
Yeah.
we don't have not one customer, and everybody has to stay in the house. So how do you get customers when everybody has to stay in the house?
Yeah.
And it was a blessing that people were still coming out to look good.
That's amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. I just in deference to time here, and gosh, I'm sorry we got a little bit of a late start, but this is just amazing for you to hear your story. I know you're inspiring hundreds of people in our audience out there right now. I mean, just to imagine what it must have been like to grow up in Cabrini Greens and to get to where you are is a phenomenal journey, and congratulations. And
Thank you.
I know it had to be a bigger power to help you get there for sure. And I admire you for being a man of faith. I'm going to leave it to C3 here to see if he's got one last question to ask you, Trent.
Yeah. So, where's your favorite place you've traveled to with your kids?
Oh man, you said with my kids. You had to throw the kids in there.
Yeah, I know, because
'Cause-
I know you and your
'cause I
wife
tr-
just go.
Yeah, we go just us, and I can't say my favorite with the kids because the kids are there. It's not my favorite anymore. So, but I've gone a lot of places, and to me, every place was the same because of resorts. You go to a
Yeah.
resort, you really can't tell where you are. Every resort is the same. We went to Greece. OMG. I was really done. I felt like I seen it all. When my wife and I went to Greece, it was everything. It was breathtaking.
Yeah.
So that was the best place ever.
Did you go to the islands? There's tons of islands.
Yeah, we
there,
went to the
right?
islands.
Mykonos and
Yeah, that's where
Majorca
yeah.
and all that stuff.
Because when you first land in Athens, it's
yeah.
just like Europe. It's the same as Europe all over. But when
Yeah.
I think of Greece, I only think of the islands. I don't
Okay.
Think,
You know,
Okay.
Yeah. So we went to both of those islands. We spent a lot of time.
That's
there.
amazing. Well, you've got an incredible story, Tread, and I just am so grateful for you to be open about sharing it. I mean, you opened up with some very personal moments in your life, and really we're grateful for that, because I know it's going to impact people watching our show. If there's somebody out there by chance who wanted to connect with you, what's the best way? Do you have an email, a website, or
Sure.
somewhere?
Beauty Snobs, you can reach me at beautysnobsbeautysupply@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram, Beauty Snobs.
Beauty Snobs Beauty Supply at gmail.com.
That's correct.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, my new dear friend, I'm telling you, it's just been a wonderful experience to have you here today. We'd love to have you back maybe in a little while and just catch up with you and see what. I got a feeling you're going to have your hands in a whole bunch of new stuff by the time we get back around to having you on the show. But we'd love to do that if that'd be okay with you.
All right, thank you very much. I was very excited to be here. Nice to meet you guys. And the first time I heard C3, I was thinking, how cool is that to be calling yourself C3?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's makes it easier for us.
Yeah.
You know?
When my dad was alive, it made Father's Day a little easier. Yeah, there were 3 Cliffs in the house, so we just decided to do 1, 2, 3.
I was going to call my sons and say, all right, here are your new names. You're T2, you're T3, but I haven't done it yet. But they'll
For sure.
see this. And
There you go. There you go. Give them name tags. That's a good way to start.
yeah, good thing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. If it weren't for you, there would be no need for us to be here either. We hope you got some value and some inspiration and some hope out of the show today. Again, thank you, Trelvis. Thank you, sir. I got one last thing I want to say. Rangers are going to take it in 5 games, ladies and gentlemen. I believe that means they're going to win the last day here in Arlington. Go bet on it right now. We'll see you next week. Who do we have next week? We've got
Kendall Bonner.
Kendall Bonner. Oh my gosh, you won't want to miss that show for sure. Kendall's going to be here, but we'll be back. You guys have a great rest of your week. We'll talk to you soon. See you next week here on Cliff's Notes. So tune in every Thursday where we'll give you the tips, tricks, and tactics to explode your business. I dare you.